Here's a question for you. Where are all the consoles? If you would have told me or probably anybody that more than 2 years after the release of the Xbox Series X and S, they would still be hard to find on retail shelves, I would have said, you're kind of crazy. Now, there has been unprecedented shifts in the whole world. We know kind of what went on, and that supply constraints really, truly were contracted, and it was hard to get hold of all of the critical parts, with Phil Spencer even saying even Ethernet ports were hard to come by in certain scenarios. But we are more than 2 years later. Both companies have come out and said, hey, look, we see those issues falling away and that supply should be rebounding. That was a little while ago. And yet today, my friends, if you want to be an owner of an Xbox Series X and you don't already have one and you want to go out and buy one today, you got to get lucky. And by lucky, I mean, you got to get really lucky. So I've dug through a bunch of the retailers, the big retailers here in the United States, and many of them you've heard of. If you're outside the US, you've probably still heard of them, but let's kick it off here with Target, a great retailer in the United States. As you can see here, my friends, you cannot buy one online. More so, if you look down at the small text, it even says there aren't any nearby. So it's not just you can't find it online, but all the local stores appear to be sold out of it as well. Moving along here, Best Buy, another one of the major retailers here in the United States. Good luck. They do not have one either, unless you're willing to pay up for more expensive bundles, which is something we typically only see during the release cycles of, bundling up with double controllers or something like that to raise that price to get you to spend more money. Now, moving along here, GameStop. I even pulled up the localization here. Now, you can see, if you're lucky, there are a couple places that have one console, just one available. So if it's got a banged up box, good luck, because that's the only one you're getting. But as you can see, the majority of the locations, they have 0 consoles for sale on the Xbox Series X. It's really befuddling to me that we're still seeing such significant supply constraints at this point in the cycle. Now, Amazon, one of the largest retailers in the world. You can, at least initially, looks like maybe buy one if you request an invitation to spend $500 with Jeff Bezos. Actually, Jeff Bezos is retired, or he's no longer. So, Andy Jassy, I think, is the CEO now. Either way, you've got to request and say, give me the opportunity to spend a whole bunch of money. Now, you might be saying, Brad, there is one retailer you've left out, and that is the biggest retailer. That is the Walmarts, and the Walmarts is the same thing. Now, granted, you might be able to get lucky and find one online, but at all the local stores around me, they're pretty much sold out. So as you can see here, while it's not a definitive rule that every single location has 0 consoles, the majority of them have 0, and very sparingly, you might be able to find 1, 2 if you're lucky, which is a little bit crazy to think about. Like, what is actually going on? Has Microsoft reprioritized? Is there other things happening in the industry? Is the supply constraints really that messed up that Microsoft can't get any of these things onto retail store shelves? Which brings me to my favorite part of the thing. The conversation is like, what is going on? So the very obvious theory is like, hey, even though Microsoft and Sony's having their own issues, is saying that the supply constraints has relaxed some. Maybe they really haven't, and Microsoft just can't get any of these things on store shelves. Or is the demand so significant for the Series X that as soon as they do hit store shelves, because Microsoft has been able to increase supply, that they're just instantly disappearing? Those are both very logical things that could be happening in the industry. Now, the other thing that could be happening too is Microsoft preparing a new model. And no, I'm not referring to like an Xbox Series V or something like that, or whatever SKU you want. But Microsoft from time to time will do revisions of consoles to make them cheaper to produce. That's very well known. I think there are 3 or 4 revisions of the Xbox Series 1 board, and maybe we're on the cusp of that. That's why supply constraints are really tight right now, and we're going to see something new. But unless somebody is willing to crack open a whole bunch of consoles and start tracking serial numbers, we may not know that officially. But either way, that is like one possibility. The other possibility that seems very logical is that Microsoft's just putting a ton more effort into the Xbox Series S. We already know that it's readily available. Microsoft ran some really big discounts over the holiday shopping season. And by the way, I think that these little factors here that you can't find any of these explain exactly why Microsoft did not touch the Xbox Series X with any sort of coupon or discount or anything like that, because they can't even keep it on store shelves. Why would they be doing that? So maybe there's a model change change coming, and that's going to help. But clearly, Microsoft is putting a lot of effort in the Series S, and they think that potentially that is the better route to go. Because you got to remember, people like myself and everybody in the industry for that matter, when console sales comes out from third parties, because Microsoft doesn't give it to us natively, which is a whole other conversation, we always look at sales volume for consoles sold. We don't necessarily look at revenue. And so Microsoft realizes that and says, look, we can sell a lot more of the Series S because of the lower price point. Clearly, they've got the manufacturing sorted for that. And maybe that's just the route that they're going to go, and that the Series X will always be kind of a unicorn if you're able to get lucky, which brings up a really interesting question. If somebody, Joe User, goes to the store with the intent to buy the Xbox Series X, they want the most powerful gaming console according to Microsoft's marketing, and it's not on store shelves, and they see a Series S and a PS5, are they going to grab the Series S because they're like, well, I'm an Xbox person, whatever, that's the one I'm going to get? Or are they going to be like, well, I'll just get the PS5. It's here. It's the same thing. It's just made by Sony. Who cares? That's a really, really interesting question, and a very loaded question, because we don't really know that answer. I think you can make justifications for both. Like, if you already have an Xbox, sure, you're going to grab the Series S. If you don't have an Xbox, then you're going to grab the PS5. Or let's say you had a PS3 or PS4 and you were looking to jump to Xbox, and you're like, well, the one that I want's not here, so I'll just grab the PS5. I know it, tried and true. And then the true customer who has 0 consoles and is looking to buy their first, that's a little bit different of an equation. We don't quite really know, but it's something that's got to be impacting Microsoft sales, at least in some capacity, because there are people out there who definitely want the best of the best, and they're only going to settle for that. And if they can't find it, they're going to get frustrated and move on. Who knows? It's like really interesting to me that this is still shaking out. Now, granted, Sony has their own issues. If you check a couple retailers, you will see that they have some consoles missing as well, but it feels like it's more prevalent on the Xbox side for the Series X than more so on the Sony side. And so I've actually heard from people who work at retail establishments saying, like, look, every time we get a Series X console in, it's 1, maybe 2, and they sell out instantly. In PlayStation, we're getting 4 or 5 on our shipments, and those stay around for a day or two, and then they're gone. And so it's not, I really think that Microsoft has a strong demand for the Series X, but they're just unable to meet capacity. And the big question becomes, why? I can't imagine Microsoft is getting rid of the Series X. That would be a crazy thought at this point, especially how much marketing has been behind it. And so I don't think they're doing any meaningful revision. I guess the only revision that would make sense at this point would be getting rid of the disk drive. But even then, Microsoft should have loaded up the supply chain so that they could keep selling consoles as they make that transition. So I am not quite sure what is really going on here. I'd love to know if anybody else has inside information about what is happening or why this console is still so hard to find. My gut tells me that, like most things, the truth is probably somewhere in between, meaning that, hey, Microsoft realized they were having success with the Series X, so they ramped up supply of that and just lowered the supply of the Series X, and that's just the model they're going to ship with. Yes, the X will be hard to find for some time, but as long as the Series S keeps selling, that's the route they're going to go. I don't think that there's any big changes to Microsoft's overall strategy happening by any means, but it's still just a little bit interesting. And if you want to stay updated on everything happening else in the world of Xbox and beyond, make sure to keep it subscribed here, because only BS on this channel is me.